It always comes to this. Well there guys, here again to do another tattoo progress update. Where I last left off, I had showed off the shading on my forearm here, all the color that Rick and I did. The 21st session on this huge Cthulhu horror sleeve. Obviously all done over black for those who haven't been following along. I still find I get quite a few new followers off these videos, so sometimes I think it's good to just preference that, even though it should be common knowledge. I'm not sure it always is. This is mostly peeled now. You can see that there's parts of it that are still like shedding and other parts aren't. So pretty typical. It's been about what? I guess it's been 3 days since I had it done, and I'm usually peeling in between 2 and 4 days depending on what we do. Yeah, super easy heal, nothing to it. I had been mentioning that I may or may not have another tattoo session coming up with Terry this week. It's been a few weeks since we blacked out my back, and it's probably not a bad thing that I had a few, well, about a week and a half without getting tattooed, as we did so much so fast. It might have been good for my body to kind of, slow down a little. But I'm right back at it. Terry had some issues, some personal issues, and we took the week off last week. We're up and running again. This week we did a pretty big session. We did a whole lot of red. As you can see, that black is going to be a minute before it settles. He really got my back quite black. I think that just the fact that that whole area was negative space and soft shading, it probably took the black a little bit easier and a little bit darker than a lot of the full color stuff that I'm used to covering. But with that said, we're not talking about my back blackout. I've talked enough about that. You can see all this red shading that we did. It all took really, really well. The idea was to black out, red out the points in between the white and black shading that were mostly black. And so we did that everywhere on both sides. So there's quite a bit of surface space, but it wasn't a whole lot in any one area. And we did down here and in between my belly button area and all of that. We were kind of in and out of places with this. So everywhere we hit, it was just real quick, and then we were out of it kind of thing. But when you're doing that, when you're doing lots of little areas, more or less like back to back, what you lose in that is typically when you're getting tattooed in the same spots, or even as you're doing a big back blackout project, for example, you're working into areas. So as you're getting to them, those areas are kind of getting used to the pain, and they're kind of numbing out, and it's not, brand new, because you're approaching the area, you're building up a tolerance to it in a way. When you're jumping all over the roadmap like what we were today, when we were literally all over both sides of my torso, we hit my chest, my underarm, my ribs, and my sides and my stomach and into my belly button area. Yeah, on either side of me. And, we're using small mag groupings, so they're a little bit sharper. So it was pretty pinchy, and in fact, I would say that this session was more painful than my back blackout, even though it doesn't look like it should have been. That's the thing about tattoo sessions. Sometimes you don't really know what you're going to get in until you get in there, So it's interesting. I actually was dreading this one a little bit, as much as I was looking forward to it. But with that said, with every session, as I always say, the pain never lasts long, and what you get from it does. And I think it's going to heal exactly like the red shading we had already done on my spider eyes on my chest. So when you look at all this, for example, you can barely tell the difference between the fresh and the healed red. So in some places you can, but some places are probably quite dry. This is the end of a work day. We had a long day here. It's been about a 10-12 hour day. So we finished this around noon, and it's now close to 7. So it's, you know, some of that's probably some hardened blood in places. But you can barely tell the difference between the fresh and healed red. Like, you'd have a hard time pinpointing where was healed and where wasn't. Now, obviously, some places took it a little bit better than others. Even Terry was like, huh, the stuff on my underarm, it went in really, really, really nice. But some of the stuff down here, though it's in there, it was a little more resistant. There's probably different amounts of scar tissue in different parts of me, too. Certainly, some parts of it hurt more than others. It wasn't, you know, when you're covering that many different areas all in one session, you get a lot of different pain, like a lot of different feelings. But it really did do a lot to pop the tentacles off the background. When Terry was starting this, he was having a little bit of a hard time figuring out what was foreground and what was background. But now, there's no question. So, yeah, really did the trick. We took some nice video and photos outside in whatever lighting we found, as I always do. And I do that quite on purpose because quite often people will accuse me of editing or enhancing or filtering, you know, my work, and I just don't want there to be any doubt about the quality and the clarity of this work. So we always do all of that stuff outside. There is some disparity in the image quality, typically with these vlogs versus the videos and pictures that we take, and that's because with those we use an iPhone camera, and with the video vlogs that I do, we do everything, or I do everything rather, on my front-facing iPhone camera. So the iPhone camera front face is not as high quality as the regular iPhone camera, obviously, and it also inverts things. So, for example, I'll be talking about my right arm, and people will think that this is my left arm. I get so many people who are like, he doesn't even know his right from his left. It's like, no, you should know that cameras invert things. Anyway, I don't want to get too off the rails on that. I was very happy to get all of it done in one session, and I really feel like it ties the top of my torso in nicely to all of the stuff on my stomach and my chest, all of my shoulder and my sleeve, obviously, and there'll be more red in this sleeve when it's finished, and my head and my neck. It all kind of works together. We used the Nebula red for this, so the brighter red, because I felt like it got a nice highlight tone. I don't think that it would be a great red to use for a huge area. I honestly don't. I think it's used better as a highlight. We also used that red in the tips of the crown here, the thorns, the crown of thorns. Sorry, it's been a long day. Coming up immediately, I talked to Terry about it. I mentioned it in another vlog recently. I can't remember which one, but I'm going to be doing another redesign of the eye, and it's going to be a whole different eye very soon. I'm pretty sure we're going to do that next week. I was thinking we would either do that or we would do my lower back and touch up my back, but I don't think that my back is ready to be touched up yet. So I think the next session I have with Terry, we're going to come in and do the eye. It's going to be getting a full color rework. We're going to be using purple, blue, and green is the colors I want to use. I haven't decided yet, but I might use some red too. Terry actually liked the more red and black version of this more. And I don't know if I so much dislike this version as it is that I kind of agree that I liked the old version a little bit more color-wise. I do like the center of the eye. I think it will look less like a sunflower when it isn't orange at all anymore. So, looking forward to the redesign. We're also going to whip out the color farther on the black while we're there. If I had asked Terry to do this a year ago when he was still fresh into working on me, he might not have believed this would work. But now when I brought it up to him, There was no doubt in his mind that it would work. So it just goes to show you that practice makes perfect to some degree. And we're going to whip that color out quite a bit more. So there's going to be less black in the equation and more color. And having it be a completely different tone than anything else that's going on here, I think it's going to really pull the eye out and put it into focus. And I kind of want that eye to be better than it is right now. Not just better, but like I want it to stand out more. I don't want it to really like blend in as much as it is right now. It's kind of the feature piece of my entire suit, and it's realistically the only part of my entire suit that's never changed, or like it's changed a lot. It's probably changed the most actually, but it's always been there. I've never covered it. I've never gotten rid of it. And so for something to be that integral to the suit and important, and everything's more or less built around it on my torso, I kind of want it to be a defined, important part of the suit, not just, you know, the thing that I wish was different or whatever else. That being said, I don't regret coloring it the way we did, and I wouldn't take it back. I just think that it's onwards and upwards always, and I also don't think that this will be the last time I change it. I did a video on here probably back in 2020, I think, where I talked about the meaning of the eye and how I plan on keeping the eye throughout all of the different versions of my bodysuit, and that hasn't changed. I haven't lost that intention along the way. It's always going to be a very important part of it for me, so that means I have to keep it up to date, and I have to change it as the rest of my work changes. And I think having it be a big focal point of like bright blue and purple and green and stuff like that will make it a different color than anything else on me, and it will have its own focus. And I think with the fact that I'm going so full color, it really does make sense to brighten it up and do a whole different thing with it. It's taken on a new life, and like I said, what I've done today by adding the color in more places, the red, this will upset some people. Changing the eye will upset some people. That happens no matter what I'm doing. People were upset with the back blackout. People were upset when I blacked out my chest. Some people like the blackout chest, and they were upset when I covered. Like there's going to be people who are angry about everything I change, and I've gotten very used to that. Just always trust the process, and you know, I have an end goal, more or less always, and that end goal has gone through some changes, but it's never a drunken, blind, spur of the moment thing. Like so many people asked me, for example, I put up the TikTok video of the red on my torso earlier today, and people were asking me if this was just a spur of the moment decision. And as we already know, if you've been watching these vlogs, I've been talking about doing this one for a little bit now. And if I've been talking about it for a little bit, it means that I've been thinking about it for longer, because for the same reasons I haven't discussed my plans for my back piece, I don't like to overpromise and underdeliver. Usually if I start talking about something, it means it's going to be tended to fairly soon. And you won't hear me talking about things I don't plan to do anytime soon. For example, I'm always thinking about ways to tattoo my ear, both sides, but I can't wrap my mind around it yet, and I don't know what that looks like, so I don't bring it up very often. The same thing. I've been planning on doing more with my palms all year, but I don't have the picture for that yet, so I haven't been talking about it all that often. I'm bringing these up now as examples, not because I plan to do anything with them. I could see hitting my palms maybe by the end of the year, but I still don't have a clear picture of what that looks like yet. I know I want more coverage, but I'm not doing that just for coverage's sake. I want to figure out a plan that works well before I get into that. And I have that system in place to keep me from more or less making mistakes, or at the very least decisions that I don't feel good with, you know? Obviously, someone out there thinks I've already made a million mistakes, but they're only mistakes for me if they're mistakes for me. It doesn't really so much matter to me what Joe down the road thinks. Joe down the road thinks I'm wasting my entire life. I'm wasting all my money and time, and this whole fucking project is just self-mutilation in someone's eyes. So it's only really important that I'm good with it. So I don't do things until I can wrap my mind around them. And usually it's like, when I have wrapped my mind around them, there's always someone willing to do it for me. So, and it's never a question of like, oh, well, I want to do it, but this artist won't. No, it's like, generally the idea around here is like, Remy's nuts, but he's usually onto something, you know? It usually sounds insane, and then we start doing it, and then it's like, well, that was a good idea. Like, every single artist in the shop today came over and seen what Terry was tattooing on me, and they were like, that's insane, that looks awesome, and it's so much more striking from afar. And it's like, yeah, the whole point is, as I've said, to break things apart, right? Get things to stand apart more. Separate the foreground and the background. Now this tentacle has a whole new life, and we didn't even do anything to it. You just bust it out. Now, with that said, I'll quickly mention, I'm not going to talk a whole ton about it, but I think that this is going to be the color scheme for the tentacles on my torso. I like this a lot. This is probably going to be passed more than once, but I like the dark purple and light blue, and all the different blues and purples in general I think work really well together. And in my first torso suit, I always envisioned the tentacles on that suit being full color, but not just full color. I wanted them to be mostly purple and blue. I've talked all about this. This is not the first time. I talked about this specifically. If you want to know more about my first suit, what didn't work about it, and what I wasn't happy with, you can check out my vlogs, Why I Blacked Out, part 1 to 3. They're pretty old. Probably could use some revision. I could probably revisit those topics altogether for people who aren't familiar with my old stuff. But my original full body suit was all meant to be full color. Everything was supposed to have color in it, and my sleeves were full color. My legs were going that way, and most of the upper part of my torso was, but the ribs and stomach and all of that stuff kind of got, abandoned. The guy who was working on it lost interest in the project, or didn't have the skill set to execute what I was hoping he could do, and the whole thing kind of came to a screeching halt. And it would have been way more work to, I think it would have been, I probably could have fixed them, but there were some things about them that weren't quite right. I didn't like the sizing or the placement of certain things, and there was all kinds of other problems that it just made more sense to me to clean slate. And if I had known then what I know now, I probably would have done it even sooner, because we've done so many things that at that time I would have believed to be impossible, that it's like, fuck, I would have gotten at this and just got to work. With that said, I always dislike having my stomach and ribs tattooed, as I said, and this time was no different. So I am happy that I went with Terry with it, because the one nice thing about Terry is he's incredibly efficient, and we got through a lot quick. So we only tattooed for around 3 hours, and that was more than enough of that. Some of me is very, very scarred and bleeds really quickly. I have some hip piercing scars that they welt up and bleed a lot, and they're incredibly painful to tattoo over. And I've had them tattooed over a dozen times each, and it never feels any better than it did the last time. I was wondering today if it hurt worse, or if I'd just forgotten how much I dislike those areas. But that doesn't mean I'm done with them. It just means that I have respect for that, I'll never forget that. Not altogether. Anyway, I'll show this off one more time, some of our work. And then I'm going to go and eat something tasty and kind of relax for the night. It's been a long day. We got a lot done. It's a good feeling. So, I'll talk to you guys again soon. Have a great day.